They found her yacht, drifting 40 miles off the Virginia coast. Engine cold, no distress signal, just one woman asleep below deck. But when the Coast Guard boarding team tried to inspect her satellite phone, it auto-dialed a number that made the senior officer's face go white. Before we reveal who this woman really is and why her phone has access that shouldn't exist, don't forget to subscribe and tell us which country and city you're watching from. The morning patrol of USCGC Vigilant had begun like any other Tuesday in the Atlantic Theater. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Reeves stood on the bridge at 0620 hours, scanning the horizon through binoculars as his 154-foot cutter cut through moderate swells approximately 40 nautical miles east of Virginia Beach. The Vigilant was a Sentinel-class fast response cutter, commissioned 3 years prior and assigned to maritime security operations along the mid-Atlantic seaboard. Reeves, 38 years old with 16 years of Coast Guard service, had conducted hundreds of boardings during his career. Drug interdictions, migrant rescues, fisheries enforcement. He had developed the instinct to recognize when something didn't fit the normal pattern. This morning, something definitely didn't fit. Petty Officer Second Class Jennifer Ortiz, manning the radar station, called out the contact at 0627 hours. "Sir, I've got a stationary vessel bearing 095 degrees, range approximately 8 nautical miles. No AIS transponder signal, no radio response to hailing attempts." Reeves adjusted course immediately, increasing speed to 28 knots as he activated the cutter's law enforcement protocols. A vessel drifting without transponder signal in these waters could mean anything from mechanical failure to deliberate smuggling operations. The proximity to Norfolk Naval Base and restricted military operating areas added another layer of concern. As the Vigilant closed the distance, the target vessel came into view through the morning haze. A 45-foot sailing yacht, white hull with blue trim, riding low in the water with sails furled. The name painted across the stern read Wanderer, with a Miami registration. No visible crew on deck, no movement, no signs of distress. Reeves grabbed the radio handset and transmitted on Channel 16, the international distress and calling frequency. "Sailing Vessel Wanderer, Sailing Vessel Wanderer, this is United States Coast Guard Cutter Vigilant on your port beam. Please respond on this channel." Silence. Only the hiss of static and the background noise of wind and waves. He tried again, adding edge to his voice. "Wanderer, this is Coast Guard Vigilant. You are adrift in a restricted area. Respond immediately, or we will board under Maritime Law Enforcement Authority." Still nothing. Reeves turned to his executive officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Prepare a boarding team. Full safety protocols. Could be a derelict, could be medical emergency, could be something else entirely. I want everyone sharp." Within 8 minutes, the boarding team assembled on the Vigilant's stern deck. Petty Officer First Class David Martinez led the 4-person team, all wearing orange dry suits, tactical vests, and sidearms. Martinez, a 15-year veteran with specialized training in maritime law enforcement, had conducted over 200 vessel boardings and knew how to read situations that didn't follow the script. The Vigilant positioned itself alongside the yacht, matching its drift speed. The ocean swell caused both vessels to rise and fall in synchronized motion, creating the rhythm that experienced sailors learned to anticipate. Martinez and his team transferred to the yacht's deck with practiced efficiency, maintaining tactical spacing and visual coverage of all access points. The yacht showed signs of recent occupation. Coffee mug on the cockpit seat, navigation charts spread across the folding table, fishing rod secured in its holder. But no people visible anywhere. The sails were properly furled, the lines coiled neatly, everything secured with the attention to detail that separated experienced sailors from amateurs. Martinez keyed his radio. "Vigilant, boarding team is aboard. Vessel appears seaworthy but abandoned. Beginning interior search." The cabin hatch was unlocked. Martinez descended the short ladder into the yacht's main salon, flashlight cutting through the dim interior. The space was compact but well organized. Galley to port with dishes in the drying rack, navigation station to starboard with multiple electronic displays powered down, sleeping quarters forward. And there, in the forward berth, a woman lay sleeping. She appeared to be in her mid-40s, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, athletic build visible even through casual clothing. Her breathing was steady and deep, the sleep of someone genuinely exhausted rather than unconscious or impaired. No obvious signs of injury, no indication of medical distress. Martinez noted details with the automatic assessment of long experience. Expensive technical sailing gear stowed properly, military-grade first aid kit mounted on the bulkhead, laptop computer secured in a waterproof case. This wasn't some recreational sailor who'd gotten in over her head. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing. "Ma'am," Martinez called out, keeping his voice firm but non-threatening. "Coast Guard, you need to wake up." The woman's eyes opened immediately, no confusion or disorientation. She assessed Martinez and the situation in the span of a heartbeat, then sat up calmly. "Good morning, officer. Is there a problem?" Her voice carried the neutral accent of someone who'd lived in many places, and her composure was unusual for someone waking to find armed Coast Guard personnel in her cabin. Most people showed surprise, fear, or at least elevated stress. This woman showed nothing except polite attention. Martinez maintained professional distance. "Ma'am, your vessel was found adrift in restricted waters with no radio response. I need to see your documentation and verify your identity." "Of course." She reached for a waterproof document pouch secured near the berth, movements slow and deliberate to avoid any perception of threat. She produced a passport, vessel registration, and captain's license, handing them to Martinez without comment. The documents identified her as Dr. Elena Vasquez, age 44, Miami address, Master Mariner certification with offshore endorsements. The passport showed extensive travel stamps from countries across 3 continents. Everything appeared legitimate, but Martinez's instincts were signaling that something here didn't align with the surface presentation. "Dr. Vasquez, what are you doing in this area?" "Research sailing," she replied easily. "I'm studying deep ocean current patterns for a marine biology project. I've been at sea for 6 days and must have drifted during the night when I finally got some sleep." The explanation was plausible enough, but Martinez noticed details that contradicted the simple researcher narrative. The laptop case bore manufacturer markings he recognized from military communications equipment. The first aid kit contained trauma supplies that went far beyond civilian requirements, and there, partially visible under folded clothing, was what appeared to be a satellite phone with hardware modifications that shouldn't exist on civilian equipment. "Ma'am, I need to conduct a safety inspection of your vessel. Standard procedure for drift situations. Please remain here while my team completes the check." Elena nodded agreement, but Martinez saw the slight tightening around her eyes. She knew what they'd find. The inspection took 20 minutes. Martinez's team cataloged everything that raised questions. The yacht's engine was functional, but deliberately shut down. fuel tanks 3/4 full with fresh diesel that showed recent refueling. The navigation computer showed course plotting that precisely avoided standard shipping lanes while maintaining suspicious proximity to military operating areas. Martinez noted coordinates that formed a deliberate pattern, positions that aligned with known submarine transit corridors that weren't marked on any civilian charts. Multiple encrypted communication devices were secured in hidden compartments that required knowledge of their locations to access. One compartment behind the navigation station contained backup power systems, rated for equipment far beyond normal sailing requirements. Another beneath the forward berth held what appeared to be scientific recording equipment, but Martinez recognized military-grade specifications when he saw them. Petty Officer Second Class James Chen, the team's technical specialist, examined the navigation logs with growing concern. "Martinez, these timestamps don't make sense. She's been maintaining station-keeping patterns for 72-hour periods. No one does that for recreational sailing or normal research. That's surveillance behavior." Martinez felt the weight of discovering something that existed far above his security clearance. Every detail pointed to the same conclusion. They hadn't encountered a civilian researcher. They'd stumbled across an intelligence operation. But it was Petty Officer Ortiz who found the item that changed everything. The satellite phone was unlike any civilian model Ortiz had ever encountered. Modified antenna array, hardened casing, and a digital display showing frequency ranges that extended far beyond commercial bands. When she powered it on to check for recent call logs, the device bypassed normal boot protocols and immediately initiated an emergency connection sequence. The screen displayed a single line of text: "Secure link authenticating, SOCOM priority alpha." Then it began auto-dialing. Ortiz's hand froze on the device as she understood what she was holding. SOCOM meant Special Operations Command. Priority Alpha meant highest-level emergency access. This wasn't a civilian phone. This was military hardware that shouldn't exist outside classified facilities. She keyed her radio with her free hand. "Martinez, you need to see this immediately." Martinez climbed back to the deck where Ortiz stood holding the phone like it might explode. The moment he saw the display, his 15 years of experience told him they had stumbled into something far outside normal Coast Guard operations. He reached for his own radio to contact Lieutenant Commander Reeves, but before he could transmit, the satellite phone completed its connection. A voice came through the device's speaker, male, clipped with authority and underlying urgency. "Authorization code?" Elena appeared on deck, moving with calm purpose. She took the phone from Ortiz's unresisting hand and spoke a series of numbers and letters that meant nothing to the Coast Guard personnel, but clearly satisfied whoever was listening. "Confirmed," the voice responded. "Stand by for secure relay." Elena looked at Martinez with an expression that held apology and resignation. "Officer, I need to speak with your commanding officer immediately. This situation requires explanation at a level above your clearance." On the Vigilance Bridge, Lieutenant Commander Reeves received Martinez's report with growing concern. A civilian with modified military satellite equipment that auto-connected to Special Operations Command was so far outside standard procedures that no training manual addressed it. He made the decision that regulations demanded. "Martinez, secure the individual and bring her aboard Vigilant. We're heading to Norfolk to turn this over to proper authorities." But before Martinez could acknowledge the order, Reeves's own satellite communication system activated with an incoming priority call. He answered to find himself speaking with a captain from Atlantic Fleet Headquarters. "Vigilant, this is Captain Morrison, Fleet Security. You have encountered Dr. Elena Vasquez, Do not detain her. Do not confiscate any equipment. Maintain position and await further instructions. Reeves felt reality shifting beneath him, like the deck in heavy seas. Sir, this individual possesses classified communications equipment and was operating in restricted waters. Vigilant, Dr. Vasquez is conducting authorized operations under classified protocols. Your boarding was accidental intersection with national security activities. No action is required from Coast Guard personnel. Sir, with respect, I need verification of this situation through my chain of command. Stand by. The next call came 3 minutes later from Reeves's direct superior, Sector Virginia Beach Commander. The message was identical and carried the weight of orders that ended discussion. Elena Vasquez was not to be detained, questioned, or have her activities reported through standard channels. Reeves had spent his entire career following regulations, trusting the system, believing in transparent procedures. Now he was being told to ignore all of it for reasons no one would explain. He looked through the bridge window at the yacht alongside, where Martinez and his team stood in obvious confusion, waiting for orders that made sense. Reeves made a decision that he knew would haunt him regardless of its correctness. Martinez, stand down. Allow Dr. Vasquez to secure her equipment. We're releasing the vessel. The radio silence that followed told Reeves that his team was as disturbed by these orders as he was. But discipline held. Martinez acknowledged and began directing his team back to the Vigilant. Elena watched the Coast Guard personnel depart with an expression that mixed relief and regret. She hadn't wanted this intersection, hadn't anticipated that her exhaustion would cause her to drift into patrol zones. The mission had required 6 days of continuous monitoring, and she had finally allowed herself 4 hours of sleep at the wrong time in the wrong location. As the Vigilant began pulling away, Elena activated her satellite phone's secure mode and placed a call to a number that existed in no directory and connected to a facility that appeared on no maps. The voice that answered required no introduction. The Coast Guard encountered me, Elena reported. The situation was contained, but my operational security is compromised. Recommend immediate extraction. Negative, came the response. Mission parameters unchanged. You're too close to completion. 18 more hours, and we'll have the data we need. Elena looked at the horizon where the Vigilant was becoming a distant shape. She had operated in shadows for 12 years, conducting missions that combined her expertise in marine biology with capabilities developed through extensive training that transformed scientists into intelligence assets. Her research on ocean currents was real, but it served as cover for monitoring submarine traffic that foreign powers believed was undetectable. The satellite phone she carried represented technology that officially didn't exist, designed to maintain communication links in situations where standard equipment would fail. Its automatic connection to SOCOM headquarters was a failsafe, ensuring that if she was captured or killed, the right people would know immediately. She descended back into the yacht's cabin and restarted the specialized equipment hidden in sealed compartments. Acoustic sensors that measured underwater signatures with precision that exceeded anything available commercially. Signal processors that identified submarine propulsion systems from their unique acoustic fingerprints. Data storage that cataloged every contact for analysis by specialists at facilities she had never visited and never would. For 6 days, Elena had been tracking a pattern that had alarmed analysts at the highest levels of naval intelligence. Foreign submarines were operating in Atlantic coastal waters with frequency and confidence that suggested they had developed capabilities to evade American detection systems. Standard naval assets couldn't get close enough to gather the technical intelligence needed to understand how this stealth was being achieved. That's where Elena came in. A civilian researcher on a sailing yacht attracted no attention and could position herself in locations that military vessels couldn't approach without triggering diplomatic incidents. Her background in marine acoustics gave her the technical expertise to identify subtle signatures that indicated submarine presence. Her training in intelligence tradecraft gave her the skills to operate independently in hostile environments. The mission had produced results beyond initial projections. Elena had identified and tracked 3 separate submarines using acoustic patterns that matched no known propulsion systems in Western databases. The data she'd collected would allow American engineers to develop countermeasures and detection algorithms that would restore the technological advantage that had been quietly eroding for 2 years. And she wasn't finished yet. 2 more contacts awaited verification in the final 72 hours of her operation. But the Coast Guard boarding had introduced variables that concerned her handlers. If foreign intelligence services learned that American assets were actively monitoring these waters, the submarines would alter their patterns and the intelligence opportunity would evaporate. The decision to continue the mission, despite exposure, carried risks that Elena understood better than the officials making the call from secure facilities hundreds of miles away. Elena's journey to this moment had begun 12 years earlier as a marine biology researcher studying whale migration patterns. Her acoustic tracking methodologies had attracted naval intelligence attention. The transition from scientist to intelligence asset had been gradual but deliberate. Security clearances, specialized training, missions that blended academic work with collection activities. She'd operated in the South China Sea, the Arctic, the Mediterranean, always under academic cover, always gathering intelligence that conventional assets couldn't obtain. She checked the acoustic data streaming across her laptop display. Another contact, this one matching the signature profile designated as Target Alpha. The submarine was following a course that would bring it within 10 nautical miles of her position within 3 hours. She began preparing the specialized recording equipment that would capture the technical intelligence that justified all the risks she'd accepted when agreeing to this assignment. Target Alpha would be her 4th confirmed contact, and potentially the most valuable. Its acoustic signature suggested propulsion technology that represented a significant advancement over previous designs. Aboard the Vigilant, Lieutenant Commander Reeves sat in his cabin, writing an incident report that he knew would disappear into classified channels the moment he submitted it. His crew deserved explanations that he couldn't provide. Standard procedures had been violated for reasons that remained opaque. He had encountered a dimension of military operations that existed parallel to the service he'd dedicated his career to, and the glimpse disturbed him more than any smuggling operation or rescue mission ever had. Petty Officer Martinez knocked and entered without waiting for invitation. "Sir, the crew is asking questions I can't answer. Join the club, Martinez." "I don't have answers either. Sir, that woman's equipment. I've been in the Coast Guard for 15 years and I've never seen anything like it. That wasn't civilian gear. That was military hardware that probably costs more than this entire cutter." Reeves nodded slowly. "Write your report exactly as events occurred. Don't speculate. Don't embellish. Whoever needs to know will know. Everyone else gets the official version that this was a standard welfare check on a drifting vessel. And if someone asks why we didn't detain someone carrying classified equipment, then you tell them that orders came from Atlantic Fleet, and that's the end of the discussion." Martinez left, unsatisfied but disciplined enough to follow orders even when they contradicted his instincts. Reeves returned to his report, choosing words carefully to document truth while acknowledging the limits of what could be disclosed. 72 hours later, Elena completed her mission. The acoustic data she'd collected filled encrypted drives that would be analyzed by specialists, whose work would never be published, and whose findings would inform decisions made in rooms where she would never be present. She'd tracked 5 separate submarine contacts, documented their acoustic signatures with unprecedented detail, and provided intelligence that would shift the balance of undersea warfare back toward American advantage. The extraction came at night. A Coast Guard helicopter that officially was conducting a routine patrol diverted to her coordinates and lifted her from the yacht's deck in an operation that took less than 4 minutes. The yacht itself would be recovered by a civilian salvage crew with security clearances and destroyed in a manner that would leave no trace of the equipment it had carried. Elena arrived at a naval facility where she spent 8 hours in detailed debriefing, technical experts asking questions that revealed how much they understood about her mission and how valuable her results had proven. When the debriefing concluded, a captain she'd never met before handed her a letter of commendation that would be filed in records she'd never be allowed to access. "Dr. Vasquez, your work on this deployment has been exceptional. The intelligence you've provided has already informed countermeasures that will protect American submarines and surface vessels for years to come." Elena accepted the words with the same neutral composure she'd shown when waking to find Coast Guard personnel in her cabin. Recognition wasn't why she did this work. The mission itself was sufficient reward. She returned to her official life as a marine biology researcher at a university in Miami, publishing papers on ocean currents and teaching undergraduate courses in marine ecosystems. Her colleagues never suspected that she occasionally disappeared for weeks at a time to conduct work that combined her academic expertise with capabilities that transformed science into intelligence operations. The Coast Guard crew of USCGC Vigilant continued their patrols along the Virginia coast, encountering smugglers and conducting rescues and enforcing maritime regulations. None of them ever learned who Elena Vasquez really was, or why her satellite phone had triggered emergency responses from the highest levels of military command. The incident became a story they shared in quiet conversations, a reminder that the ocean held secrets far deeper than any of them would ever fully understand. Somewhere in the Atlantic, foreign submarines continued their silent patrols, unaware that their acoustic signatures had been recorded with precision that would render their stealth capabilities obsolete. American naval engineers worked with Elena's data to develop detection algorithms that would restore technological superiority in the endless competition beneath the waves. And in a secure facility whose location remained classified, analysts studied the intelligence that a civilian researcher on a small sailing yacht had gathered through a combination of scientific expertise, technical capability, and personal courage. Her name appeared in no public records of achievement. Her work would never be acknowledged in official histories, but the impact of her missions would protect American interests for decades to come. The ocean kept its secrets. The submarines continued their eternal patrols, and Elena Vasquez returned to sea whenever her unique combination of skills was needed, operating in the space between civilian and military, between acknowledged and classified, between the world that people saw and the reality that kept them safe. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what city you're watching from today. Have you ever wondered what's really happening just beyond the horizon?